things I learned very early on was, and maybe that is the Latin part of me, it might be the Jewish part, it might be both parts together, is I have a voice. I have something to say. My opinion matters. And that comes from my parents as well. They were very active in the civil rights movement. It was very important that those who were disenfranchised or marginalized be brought into the community. And I'm not going to be able to attribute the quote properly, but if there's no seat at the table, you're supposed to bring a chair. So I always brought my own chair. And I think that's something that we all have to do.
Much at all. I mean, I remember being at Upfronts in the room where they told us our time slot, and it was 8 o'clock on Thursday night, opposite Friends and Seinfeld, and I just burst. I was like, ha 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 ha, no way, bye, we're canceled. And so for that whole first year, nobody knew, nobody was watching. Even then, I do the opposite of whatever going to look for information about yourself is. I don't read anything, I don't,
The internet was kind of newish at the time.
Y'all. I had an AOL pager, AOL instant message thing. So I didn't really know until I remember driving one day, and I'm so sorry for so many of my fashion decisions as Lorelai, many of them were mine, but I had this like bandana thing that was like cool at the time. It was like rhinestone bandana, like tied. I know, it's really bad look. And I had one on in the car, and I remember a guy was crossing the street, and he saw me, and he went, "Ew!" Which I don't know. I guess it was like he was like thumbs up, and I thought that's weird. And stuff like that started happening. Where people would say something, and that's how I knew. But really, it took all that time to understand what it became. And then it took, when I was on Broadway, people would wait after, and the crowd started getting younger. And I thought, these girls were not even alive, and they were watching it in reruns. And I was like, oh, reruns. I didn't even think about reruns. Like, for so long it was kind of that chapter that was over, and then reruns, and then Netflix. And, so the world changed. You could not have predicted it. But the sweetest part of that show is seeing in people's faces what it has meant to them in many cases as a family or as a mother-daughter. We could never have known. And I also think, we were talking about this earlier, one of the reasons is there's just not a lot of shows rooted in kindness and love and positivity. Even the stuff that crosses my desk now, it's dark and cynical and vampires and robots and, there just still aren't that many shows that are just people, human relationships.
Well, it's because they're hard to write.
They're really hard to write.
When
you run out of
story.
You run out of story. I mean, I think, on Parenthood, you can have all the things people have. They fall in love, they go to school, they, God forbid, get sick, they, get married, they, so once you've done all those, you're like, well, I don't know, it's a very special, we gotta start killing some people off, I guess, and we'll see with something, these shows that hit, like This Is Us or something, it's, they're hard to make decisions.
And also not even.
Hi everybody, I'm Lori H. Schwartz. I'm a tech and content strategist in Los Angeles, and I sit on the board of the Television Academy and talk to people for a living, and I can't think of a more exciting end to such a fantastic day than soon-to-be triple threat actress, producer, and soon-to-be director Maggie Gyllenhaal. It's so great to have you here to end what has been such a great day. And you're on fire right now, so you have, not actually, you have The Deuce, which just kicked off its second season, and you're getting raised for that. You have The Kindergarten Teacher, which drops tomorrow on Netflix, also raised, and then the exciting announcement about your first directorial project. So how do you feel?
I feel so grateful.
So, yeah, and I think everybody is very excited to hear sort of your perspective on your projects because they all have a little slant. So let's talk about the Deuce, because Candy is such a empowering female character. So when you're choosing projects, are you looking for that? Are you looking for a particular type of character? Is that, you know, something important to you?
I am not looking for like empowering female characters. No, I'm looking for people that feel, characters that feel human, that feel like a representation of the female, or where it's possible to express something about my female experience that's real. And it's rare. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Candy originally, and TV is so funny in that, like, it's a really big leap of faith, you know, which is part of why I wanted to be a producer on the show. But, you know, I read the first 3 episodes where she was a sex worker, and there was, you know, we had some conversation about where she was going to go, but originally she was, you know, money-minded, financial-minded. She was going to be a producer. And I think it like just became clear to me as I started working on it really early on, like 2nd episode, 1st season, like, no, she's a director. And I remember there's a scene where she makes her first porn, and it was written already into the scene was that the sex is kind of incidental, and she's just like, she's really interested in like, what does that flat do, and what does that bounce do, and I sort of turned it in my head into being this like moment of artistic awakening for her, like, whoa, like everything is light, and all this sex and all this living, what happens if you put the frame here versus putting the frame here? And she's tripping on this while she's in someone's basement in Queens making this porn. And so then after that, I was like pushing David Simon and George Pelecanos, like, she's a director. Like everywhere I could put it in, like secretly, overtly, she's a director. And in the way I played things, and she became a director, which is such a wonderful thing about TV. Well, that's a collaboration, right? That's like really confident, strong writers responding to what they're getting from their actors. And so then, like, I do have to say, I think this is what you're asking me. I have then in turn been inspired myself by this person I created. It's so cool. It helped to create, you know, like, I'm just a piece of it.
But was it challenging for you to act as a producer and an actress? And did that sort of like, because you come from a family of producers, writers, filmmakers, so it's sort of something you've been raised with. Were you thinking that's the direction I'm going to take all this?
No, it was very natural to me. I think on The Deuce, I am a producer in a very different way than I was a producer on The Kindergarten Teacher. What I mean by that is on The Deuce, I have nothing to do with the minutia of the financing. Zero. Like, that's just not, if I tried to get involved in that, they'd be like, what are you talking about? On The Deuce, I'm just purely an artistic producer, where I'm seeing scripts earlier, I'm responding, making shifts and changes before we shoot, I'm seeing early cuts of episodes, I'm in conversation in general about the fundamental storytelling. And those things, of course, I mean, I guess there are different ways to be actors. You can be an actor where you're like, and I was just saying, you know, the other day, I was like, I never get these jobs where somebody just asks you on a big movie or something to just come in for a few days, do your job, and go home, thank you very much. And those movies, I feel like those are the places where you make money. But I never ever get asked to do that anymore. And I don't think I'm so good at that. Like, for me, what I'm interested in is the whole thing. Like, I'm interested in choosing a story that can only be told well if it walks on a tightrope, and then helping in every way with wardrobe, story, script. And not so much with like the way things are lit, although I'm getting more and more interested in that. In every way, helping to stay on the tightrope. And so then, you know, maybe the more interesting question is like whether or not on the kindergarten teacher, the producing got in the way of the work. And I would say again, like not at all. Like the money stuff, which I knew something about, but I learned so much more about working on that movie. You know, I have a visceral, what's the word? I'm attached to getting the money for the movies I want to make, you know, so I'm like interested, I care, give me all the details, tell me everything, you know. And then in terms of the producing decisions that I had to make on that, they were all very tied to how do we make this movie best? Like, do you want me to stop answering this? Or should
No, I mean, it's fascinating too, because I haven't seen Kindergarten Teacher. I've seen the trailers and I've read a bit about it, and that character is also sort of struggling to find her voice, right? A bit repressed, or maybe you can tell us a little bit about it, but it seems there's a theme in the characters all trying to, you know, get their way, find out who they are.
Yeah, well, I would say I made The Deuce, then I made The Kindergarten Teacher, and then I made the second season of The Deuce. And in some ways, they are of a piece. I find that the projects that like really draw me, they draw me because they give me an opportunity to explore something about myself that's like kind of on the edge of what I know about myself. And yes, I think Candy on the Deuce is like, I can't go on like this anymore. I'm starving. Like I need more. And Lisa and the Kindergarten Teacher, I mean, probably nobody's seen the Kindergarten Teacher. You can see it tomorrow on Netflix. It is about a woman, a teacher, who becomes obsessed with a child in her kindergarten class when she starts to think that he's a poetic genius. But what it's really about is the consequences of what happens when you starve a vibrant woman's mind. And because it's made by a group of women filmmakers, our conclusion is the consequences are dire. And the movie is as much a psychological thriller as it is a horror movie, you know? So yeah, they're both hungry, and in a way that I think many, I mean, what are you doing here in this room right now? Like so many women in the past 2 years, maybe in particular, certainly for me, have, in my experience, woken up to the fact that things aren't what we wish they were, that we've compromised ourselves in ways that have serious, dire, real consequences. And I'm tired of it. And so these women are also waking up to that, like Candy, and I love that it's flipped, that it's like kindergarten teacher versus porn director. Candy, the porn star, sex worker, porn director, she's got a clear mind. And even though the show is designed, I think, very realistically to make it very difficult for her to get the things that she wants, 1971 or 1978, she moves slowly, inch by inch, in a very clear way to get a little bit of what she needs. And so even though horrible things happen to Candy, it's a pleasure to play her because her mind is so clear. Whereas Lisa, in the Kindergarten Teacher, has a very similar need, but she's very confused. And she does really problematic things, but from a place that's very, very relatable, at least for me. And I found it, like, I love that we made it. And I love to sit in a room with people watching it because they like gasp and shift. And I feel that it was an important movie to make, but it was not fun because she's so confused. And last thing, and then you can ask me the question. This is the last thing to say is like I think if we're honest, you know, sometimes we're clear like Candy, and sometimes we can be even extremely confused, like Lisa.
I feel like I'm having a therapy session, like you're in my head. So I was thinking just about watching your career and these projects you're taking on, and going back to like Mary Pickford, who early back started her own studio and production company. Somehow we lost our way, and now we're back to this place where women are starting their own production companies to create the projects. Do you think that's really what it's ultimately going to take to get more stories out there that are about us?
Well, I think a couple things about that. I think maybe the reason why, like in the Mary Pickford days, there was more freedom for women is because it was pioneering time, you know, and like then the men came over and were like, nah, this is our, you know, you can do this element of it. I think what really needs to happen is that the money needs to catch up to the thinking. Because I think and it always takes time, I think, for that. The money's always slower. People are like, not yet, I want to get my money. I don't know. I think many people are thinking like this. They want to see movies and television that is really actually feminine. That's really actually an articulation of feminine experience, but just the money just has to catch up. Because they want projects by women, for women, about women. It's going to take them having some kind of financial success. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, women-helmed projects helmed by, people of color, those have all hit this year, and everyone's like, oh, it works. So it's okay, you don't have to be, just a white guy. And there's nothing wrong with being a white guy, either. I mean that sincerely. So tell us about your directorial project, because that's really exciting too. And I know I heard some stories about how you had to secure it, or you weren't sure, or, because the person isn't, their name is a pseudonym.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of an Elena Ferrante novel called The Lost Daughter. And I don't know, I guess I found more and more with my acting that, at least right now, my best work comes just by kind of opening, I don't know how to put it exactly, just like opening my mind up to something and seeing what comes up and what bounces off, and I guess that's how I began this directing project, is I was like, I don't know, it's probably unlikely, but maybe Elena Ferrante would give me the rights to one of her novels. It couldn't hurt to ask. And I'm working with the producers of The Kindergarten Teacher, who I absolutely love. And we asked her publisher, and her publisher said, that he thought it would be a good fit, and was encouraging, but he said, look, it's going to be up to her. And Elena Ferrante, as I'm sure most of you know, she's anonymous, it's a pen name. So I couldn't have a meeting with her or speak to her directly. I had to write her a letter, which is lucky, I think, because for me, I sometimes figure out what I think about something by writing it. And not just writing it down, but like working it out. A few months before my 40th birthday last year, I started working on this letter, and I don't think that she was asking me to tell her what this movie would be. I think it would be maybe not particularly interesting if I could do that before I adapted the script or began shooting, but fundamentally, what were my intentions? What was I trying to do? That's what I wrote. And like maybe 3 days before I turned 40, I heard that I got the rights.
That's great. Two girls, are you, is it a struggle at all for the balance of all of that? Because I know a lot of us are always juggling all of that.
No, I've got it totally down. Yeah. Like even today, I was like, hey, there's a babysitter. She's coming. I don't live here, but I'm traveling all around promoting the kindergarten teacher, and I'm like so grateful to be doing that, to have a movie that people want to talk to me about, to have Netflix backing us, so I'm taking that very seriously. I believe in our movie. I want to do the press. I want to travel, but at the same time, like, I want to stay plugged in an absolutely everyday way with what's happening to my kids. It's rare that I don't know what they had for dinner, Like, I mean, it happens, of course, but like, I like to know, I like to make it if I can, but that's asking a lot too, So anyway, they came with me, and my husband's been so amazing in this little period of time. But here they are now, and I'm like, okay, but don't touch me because my suit is, hold on, and it's like, and whatever, just like doing the best I can. That's it.
I think that's pretty good. I think it's clear you're doing pretty good, right, everybody? Do you think that, in terms of advice, like if you were going to advise them about the industry and in some ways, treat us maybe as your daughter's a little older, what would you tell us as women who are trying to get there with our projects? Get that film made, get that script to the right hand. What's the thing that's going to crack it?
I mean, I guess I'm not sure that this is good advice, but somebody who I really respect, I was thinking about my project that I'm adapting, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through my adaptation. And I was thinking, it's going to be hard to get the money for this. This is not, it doesn't have a hook. It doesn't check the boxes. And actually a few people who I really respect said to me, this is not the time to think about that. Write your movie that you want to make from you. I feel the same way about acting, and I'm obviously much more of an expert in terms of that than I am in terms of either writing or directing. But with acting, I think, someone's going to come into a room and audition for me. I want to see their expression. I want them to have their sense of self in their work. I don't want someone to try to appeal to a fantasy of what they think other people think that they're supposed to be. But I remember being confused by that in the beginning. Anyway, I had someone smart basically set me on straight with the writing and just say, you don't have to worry about that now. And ideally, I guess I do think when you express something that's really honest, human, and true, that it is compelling. It may not be compelling on a super mass level, but I think it will be compelling to many people if you express something honestly.
That's great. And lastly, in terms of women that you look up to that have inspired you in Hollywood, because having mentors really helps all of us. Are there women that have been, especially important to you, that have sort of led the way for you?
Yeah, there are some people who are mentors from afar, like Anne Bancroft or all those, Diane Keaton, or I do actually know Meryl Streep a little, but really, it's
What would you like?
she's wonderful and warm and very, very supportive. But watching her work, I find, I don't know, so amazing. I was thinking about Diane Keaton actually recently, who I don't know. I may have maybe met.
Well, maybe she'll hear about this, right? And everybody will tell her.
But I was thinking about her in Godfather 2, where that could have been a blank part. And I think May had sort of been conceived that way. And she brought her humanity into it, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, who's that?
When they close the door on him and she's just there.
Yeah, or every minute.
Yeah.
And then, then there are people who I do know, like Emma Thompson, who is amazing, and is amazing not just as an actress, really, really incredible actress. but then also just like a great, wise, powerful woman who's taught me a lot. Or just recently, I'm a fan of Annette Bening, and I saw her recently and went and introduced myself, and we just immediately went like down 3 levels and we're having like an actual conversation. And for many of these actresses too, it's their work for sure, and it's also the way that they present themselves in the world. Because that's, you know, whether we want it to be true or not, that's part of the job.
Last question, are you going to be setting up a formal production company? Do you think you'll be, you know?
It's interesting, I've been asked that before, and I don't totally know what that means, because, I mean, I have a production company, which many actors do, just because of tax reasons. It, you know, makes more sense. So I think it's a good question. Often actors will like ally themselves with a producer, and together they'll develop projects under the name of a production company. Or, you know, but for me, I'm not quite there yet. Although I have lots of things in development and ideas in development, and are they under the sort of banner of my production company name? Yeah. But I just don't have like money to pay for them. so
Does anybody have money?
is it an imaginary production company right now? I don't know.
There are all those press releases about the different actresses setting up their companies and then pumping out, you know, projects for themselves too.
Right.
You know, it seems to be a trend, but from you, it really sounds like you have to have passion about the project that you're working on, you know, whether it's a feminist tale or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine wanting to be a part of something that isn't a feminist. I mean, like, what does that mean, you know? Like,
I don't actually know what the word means anymore.
well, I mean, how about that Beyonce song? What do they say that, like, you know, it's like just equality. I mean, my daughter, I think I said this on The View the other day, my daughter, who's 12, met a little girl who's also 12 who told her that she wasn't a feminist, and my daughter was like astonished, really confused, because like, what do you mean? What does it possibly mean? I can't even understand what that means. I mean, I'm not talking about like, oh, everything has to be overtly politically feminist, but isn't it? I mean, the kindergarten teacher is not like a pedantic, you know, I don't know, but it's super totally feminist, you know? I don't understand how I could be in something that wasn't. Or I could play someone, I don't know. Can't understand. How could I?
I think, I guess it was it Hillary Clinton who said women's rights are human rights?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
something like that. So I guess it's anything that is important, you know, telling good stories. You know, with us positioned well, I guess. Something like
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be a part of something that ultimately wasn't feminist. But I try not to do that.
All right, so just so everyone knows where to be watching out for all of your great stuff. So you have The Deuce on HBO right now in season 2, and you can watch it on demand and all that. And then you have The Kindergarten Teacher dropping on Netflix tomorrow. So watch that, sure. Great reviews since Sundance, so everyone has to get to catch that. And then anything else coming out that we should be looking out for? Anything you're allowed to talk about? Or?
No, that's it.
So Maggie's available for all of your projects.